Welcome to the day 1 session on Selenium WebDriver and Java training by 5 Elements Learning. Today we are going to talk about the concept of Selenium and introduce Selenium to you. Just a few instructions. The class is going to be for around 3 hours. And between the class there is going to be logical breaks. If you want, you can ask questions during that time. You have to ensure that your mic and speakers are fine so that you can communicate to me if needed and hear me properly. After the session is over, the PPT material recording will be shared with you for your reference, and you can send in your queries to info@5elementslearning.com. So we are going to cover two presentations today. The first one is where we are going to introduce Selenium to you, and we will talk about its different components, and then we are going to largely see what Selenium IDE is all about. So before I begin with the session, uh, just let me know if there is anything you would like to ask so that I can answer and then we can proceed, or you want me to start discussing. Any questions? Okay. So how many years of experience do you have? No, you do not need to have any Java and prior knowledge, Bapi, because we are going to cover that with the course. So it's not required. Okay. Fine. Anything else? Okay. So let's begin. So we are going to start with the introduction about what is test automation. But before that, let's try and understand what do we mean by the word testing? What do we mean by the word testing activities? So the activity which is trying to find out whether the product is as per expectations, okay, is as per our requirements, is basically a testing activity, and any deviation from the expected is a bug or a defect. Now, in the testing activity, there are different releases for the same product, where with every release there are some bug fixes or some new feature development happening, right? Where with each release we have some bug fixes or new feature being introduced. So what happens is that if this is the scenario, it is very much possible that the code or the feature set which was working in the previous release is not working now, right? And how do we find it out? We find it out by doing something called as regression testing on our build, in which we retest those features and scenarios which were working in the prior builds to find out if because of any bug fixes the scenarios got broken down or there is an error. Now, this is a repetitive activity, correct? And it has got no creativeness in it because it's an activity which is happening under repetition. Since it is a repetitive activity and it is supposed to happen with every build release, it is an ideal candidate for test automation. Okay? This set of scenarios are ideal for automation of test cases. And what is that we achieve from this is we are able to save cost, we are able to save time, and we are able to have an increase quality. Okay, so we save cost, save time, and have an improved or an increased quality. Now, what do you mean by the word automation? Anything which is replaced, anything which replaces the manual effort, or a machine which replaces the manual effort is called, the process is called automation. For example, calculator is a good example of automation. Telephone, washing machine, car, etc. are all good examples of automation, right? So, whenever in our testing scenarios the manual effort is replaced by the scripts which we have coded to automate the testing of the application, by automating the scenarios, it's a test automation activity. And what do we achieve by test automation? We are able to save cost, we are able to save time, and we are able to have an improved quality. How we are able to save time? Because we can use the night times for execution and unattended modes wherever there is no manual or there is no person required to attend the test runs can be planned. Okay, you can run your system 24 by 7. They don't need breaks or holidays. Okay, so they are very productive in that sense. And improved cost, because you need not require as many people, sorry, you need not require as many machines, as many people you may need to automate to test the same product. And third, you will be having an improved quality because the quality doesn't go down with every run. Okay, the productivity doesn't decrease with every cycle because it's a machine, it cannot do that. So these are the three factors, but at the same time, we need to understand that automation is not an answer or replacement of manual testing. There is no product which is 100% test automatable. This doesn't exist. Okay? So there is always only 60 to 70%, that too in a good sense, okay, in a very high sense, scenarios which can be automated. Rest of them you have to manually test. Is this clear? Any questions? Okay. Now, what is that which is expected from the software test automation activity? For the software test automation activity, you require dedicated workforce, you require a dedicated budget and schedule, you require a well-defined plan and strategy, you require commitment from your senior management, you also need effective tools for creation as well as maintenance of your automation suite, and you need trained human resources. Now, there are commercial as well as open source tools available to us in the market for these activities. So, commercial tools are from HB, you have QTP, which is now known as UFT, you have Test Complete from SmartBeer, you have RFT, you have Bold and Silk. Whereas in open source world, you have tools like Selenium, Sahi, Water, etc. Now, what is the benefit of using open source tools? They are low cost, customizable, you get faster time to market, there is an ease of procurement, and a sense of contributing back to the community. So that's the benefit which we get by using open source tools. Okay, and we are not the only ones. Selenium is rather one of the most popular test automation tools with very high demand in the job market, and it doesn't cost a single penny to procure, as well as it has been used by multiple organizations like Google, Facebook, Apple uses Selenium, and even small organizations. Now you can read about different open source automation tools on the respective website, and this is the website for Selenium. Let me share this URL with you. So open the URLs at your end and just browse through it to get familiarity with it and its different sections. So I've shared the URL with you guys. So if you open the URL, you will find it out that it contains these tabs. So you got projects, where you have WebDriver, Grid, IDE, and RC. So these are the 4 different components of Selenium. Then you have got the download section, where you have the different components which you can download from the Selenium. You have got the documentation section, which talks about the different uh, components and provides you a very good documentation, and you can choose in which programming language you want the examples to be available to you. So it's an extremely well written document. You have got this support tab which talks about from where all you can get support on Selenium, and in the about it talks about who has built Selenium, about it news and blog, getting involved, documentation, etc. So this is all about the Selenium Apply web page, and what we are going to do is we are going to come back to this website now and then for downloading different components or maybe reading something over the help. So just take a minute, browse through it, make yourself familiar. So Selenium is a portable software testing framework for web applications. The test can be written using any programming language, and Selenium can be used for any operating system like Windows, Mac, Linux, etc. It was initially invented in the year 2004 by Mr. Jason R. Huggins, original name being JavaScript Functional Tester. It's an open source browser based integration test framework which was originally created by the team at ThoughtWorks. Selenium supports multiple browsers and multiple operating systems. It is able to script in several languages like Java, C Hash, Ruby, Python, Perl, and it has got support for inbuilt test validation and reporting. So, thus adding to its popularity, and that's one of the main reasons why Selenium is such a popular tool. And it is released under the Apache 2.0 license, thus it can be downloaded and used without paying any single penny. Okay. Now there are four important components of Selenium. You have got Selenium IDE, Selenium RC, Selenium Grid, and Selenium WebDriver. Now this WebDriver is basically known as Selenium 3.0, which is the latest version available to us and the one which we are going to use in our course. Out of them, let's first understand what is the for why each of these components are available. So Selenium IDE is effectively a Firefox API and it works only with the Firefox browser. The benefit of using Selenium IDE or the purpose of having Selenium IDE is for record and playback. So Selenium IDE allows us to record and playback test scenarios and save it in different test formats. For example, we can save the test as an HTML file, or it can as well be exported in some programming language format. So to help us quickly find out whether our application will be supported by Selenium or not, we can use the recorder and record and playback scripts to test them. Selenium RC was also known as Selenium 1.0. This was one of the initial components of Selenium, standing for Selenium Remote Control. It basically works in a client-server mode where a small proxy server in the form of a JavaScript is injected into the browser, and a client drives the browser by sending the commands which will be captured by the proxy server, which will then automate the browser. So it is like a three-way handshake. I shake hands with a person, the person shakes hands with the third person, and thus me and the third person are shaking hands. So similarly, the client is able to drive the browser by passing the commands through the proxy server. And then people basically found out that we need not have any proxy servers or any JavaScript engines to be used as an intermediary, because every browser has got their own WebDriver which can facilitate and automate the browser. So every browser, IE has got its own WebDriver, Firefox has got its own WebDriver, Chrome has got its own WebDriver. So every browser comes with a native support for automation of that. So this technique was used and Selenium WebDriver was released. It's like a direct handshake. So nowadays people only use Selenium WebDriver, which was also known as Selenium 2.0, and its latest release is the Selenium 3.0 version. And then the last component which we have is the Selenium Grid. Selenium Grid allows us to run our test in parallel. Okay, the same test cases can be executed on different browsers and machine combinations at the same time, that is in parallel, thus facilitating us to save time and also helping us perform the cross browser testing activity. For this reason we use Selenium Grid. Is this clear? The four components and their usage? Great. Now we will have a look at our web application which we are going to test. So I'm going to open it and share the URL with you guys as well, so that you can have a feel of the application which we are going to use throughout our course for learning purposes. So this is the application. It's a simple e-commerce application. You have got a tab called as My Account. Pay attention to what I'm doing and then you can browse it. Here, if you are new to the website, which all of you are, you have to click on the continue button to register yourself as a user to this website by filling in all the mandatory details. Every detail which is marked in the red star is mandatory. Once you have created an account, you have to use that account to log into the application. Once you are logged into the application, you can go ahead and perform some actions. For example, you can change password, you can change some account information, you can search for a product, you can go ahead and purchase that product. So these are some of the actions one can perform once they are a registered user on the browser, on the application, and it does not deliver any products to you when you are buying it up, because as mentioned it's a dummy application. And you can see different validation messages coming up front. Okay, so go ahead, browse through this application, and to log off you click on the log off button and the continue button to come back to the main page. So have a feel of this application and make yourself familiar with it. And while you are at it, create a register yourself as a new user as well. Let me know once you are done. Okay. So some of the important scenarios which we have seen are these. Out of them, let me write down a manual scenario for the login logout, and I am going to just simply write down the steps without any validation. So open the application, click on the My Account link, type username, type password, click on the sign in button, click on the log off link, click on the continue button. Okay, so these are the steps for my test case. Now we will learn how we can set up IDE, Selenium IDE on our Firefox browser and make it work. For that, launch the Firefox browser and open your Selenium HQ website. Go to the download section and you will find out that it says download latest release version from addonsmozilla.org. Click here. It will take you to the Selenium IDE add-on on the Firefox browser. Click on Add to Firefox button. Once you do that, it will ask you that do you want to install it on your Firefox browser? Say yes. Go ahead and install it and restart your browser. Once the IDE get installed, you can start using it. To check whether it is installed properly or not, you will be able to see this icon on your browser window, and when you click it, a pop-up would appear which is basically our Selenium recorder. So perform these steps and let me know once your IDE is installed successfully. ensure that you have got the latest Firefox version. So kindly check that. You should be on the latest Firefox version and then try to go back and install the Selenium IDE. You should be able to see it. Okay, so you can try it out a little later. So we are on the main page. Here, click on IDE icon to launch it. By default, the IDE starts in the recording mode. Can you see this record button? It is enabled. So by default, IDE launches in the record mode. And in here, you will have the test cases. In here, you will have some steps getting captured, which we will understand what did they mean as the class progresses. Now let it be and just start and do the steps. So click on my account, provide the email address, the password, click on the sign in button, click on the log off link and the continue button. So you are back to the home page. Stop the recording, go to file, click on save test case and provide the name of the test case inside a proper folder. So save this test case and you then click on this play icon, which will play back the current scenario which you have recorded. So go ahead and try this out and then we will look at what this particular test script which we have recorded means and understand it. So go ahead and try out the scenario for recording and playing back the login logout test case, not test case, just the steps for your 5 elements learning demo site application. So now, when you have a look at the test steps which are captured, let's have a look at the format. The first tab is the column is the command, which talks about the different Selenium commands. And you could see that as I traverse through the different commands, the reference in here changes. It's basically the library reference which talks about what this command is all about, what type of arguments does it take, and what it behaves like. The second is the target. Target is the object information. We'll understand shortly how to read it. It talks about the object information on which this command is supposed to act. And the value is our test data which we are passing. So open application, click on my account link, type email address, type password, click on the sign in button, click on the log off link, and click on the continue button. These are the steps which are captured for my scenario. Now, what I want you guys to do is record the registration scenario and try to play it back and let me know whether you are able to play it back or not. Think about it. First, write down the manual steps, then record the registration scenario and play it back. You get 10 minutes to do it. First, write down the manual steps, then record the scenario and play it back. Okay? You get 10 minutes to do it. Please attempt it. So the registration scenario, were you able to play it back? You were able to play back the registration scenario. And if you were able to play it back, did you make any changes at your script level? It will fail, right? So why the registration will get failed when it's displayed back? Any answers? The reason it will fail is because the user which you are trying to register is already registered, which got registered when you were trying to record the script. So when we are trying to automate an application, we should have a clear picture of the application behavior in mind to understand logically that if a script has failed, it could be very much possible that it is because of the application behavior itself, then some issue with the automation. Is this clear? Great. Good. Now, let's have a look at the backend how the test case which we have created got saved. So the test case got saved as an HTML file. If you open it, it will basically looks like a HTML web table where the first column was that of commands, second column was that of objects, and the third column was that of the data which was passed to the test case. Okay. So these are the three columns available to us in our HTML file. Now in Selenium, there are categories of Selenium commands, and those categories are action, assertion, and the accessor commands. Okay, these are the three categories of Selenium command: action, assertion, and accessor command. Action commands are those commands which perform an action on the website. They perform an action on the web application or the website on which we are functioning. Assertion commands validates that action. Okay. Assertion command is for validation of an action on the website. And accessor commands help us store some information of the application. It is also used to create some variables, etc. Okay, so action, perform an action on the website. Assertion validates the action, and accessor stores information about the application. Now, have we seen any action command? So the action commands we have seen is open, type, click and wait. Okay, so these are some of the action commands we have seen, right? We have not yet seen any assertion or assessor commands. In Selenium, assertion commands belong to two categories, verify and assert. And they help us introduce validation for our test cases. And validations could be of two types: text-based validations and object-based validations. Okay, these are the two types of validation available to us for the application. Okay, so you can verify whether a particular text is available on the web page, or you can verify whether a particular object is available on the web page. Now, taking back the same scenario of login and logout, open the application, click my account link, type username, type password, click sign in button, verify log off link is available on the page, verify my account information text is available on the page, click on log off link, click on continue button. Okay, so these are the steps I would be writing down with the validation of my test case. Okay, so in here there could be a last step, verify log off link is no longer available, so that you can say that you are no longer logged into the application, you are back on the home page. Now pay attention to how I would record this scenario, and for the time being I'm going to use the verify set of commands. Okay, and I'll show you the difference between verify and assert. So my scenario is login, log out, and with appropriate validations I'm going to record the test case. Click on my account, provide username, provide password, click on sign in button. Now the first is verify presence of an element. So I'll say verify element present, click on the target. To identify the target, click on the select button and go ahead and click on the object which you want to pick. So I want to pick the log off. This will capture the log off information in here. Now I want to verify text. Verify text on a particular element. So verify text, click on select again, go and highlight the my account information field. Click here, copy this text and verify text on the object which is recognized by this information, and this is the text you want to verify. Click on the next line, click on the log off link and the continue button, and I will want to add a command, verify element not present. And which element I want to verify as not being present? The log off link one. Since it is no longer available, I'll simply copy the object information and paste it here for this command. I'll stop the recording. I'll go to the file, say save test case, and when I play it back, this time this test case will play back with validations. So once I play it back, the test case will pass and you can see that the steps which we have added for validation appear in a different shade of green. Now I am going to perform the same test case, but this time I am going to use the assert set of commands, and then later I'll show you the difference. So in case you have not captured how I am adding it, do that now. Launch IDE, start recording, click on my account link, type in the username, type in the password, click on the sign in button. Now we have to add the text validation and the image. So the object validation. So first I am adding the object validation. I want to assert element present. Which element I want to be present? The log off link. So I click on the select button, then on the log off link to capture the information. It will be captured. Then next I want to verify text. So I'll say assert text. Assert text, what text? Assert the my account information text. So click on select button, highlight the element and copy the text available in here to be provided. So it will fetch the text associated with this particular object and verify with my account information. Then you have to click on the log off link and the continue button, and I want to now verify assert element not present. So I will say assert element not present, and I will copy the log of link information and give it to it. Now I will stop the recording, save the file with assert property name, and I am going to play it back. So it has played back successfully. Now the difference between verify and assert is both of them are used to validate a test scenario. Okay, they are used to validate a test scenario, but if a verify command fails, the test will still go ahead and execute the next step. Whereas if assert fails, the test execution will halt or will stop. Okay, so if verify fails, it will still go ahead and execute the next step, but if assert fails, it will halt the execution. So have a look at it. So I'm going to open first the verify test case and deliberately fail by giving a wrong text in here. So execution has started. You will find out the test failed because my account information failed. You can go to the log and check it that it did not match. But notice that it still allowed the next step to be executed. Whereas if I would have made assert fail, the execution would have halted then and there. So here the execution has halted and you get some green step, dark green and a red step. Some has passed, some one step has failed, and thus the execution has halted. And you are still logged into the application. It has not allowed you to proceed further and continue with the log off because the step has failed. So this is the difference between assert and verify. Is this clear? So go ahead and practice the same scenario for the login and logout on your system. You get 10 minutes to add verification or assertion. Please practice it now. Yes, you can use assert and verify in the same script. That's also fine. So we have to understand that verify can be used for minor validations, okay? And assert is to be used for major validations. So for example, if I want to record the scenario for buy a product, I might want to assert the login action, because if I have not logged into the application, I may not be able to go ahead and buy a product, okay? So for major validations, you always use assertion. Then we have got assessor commands. Assessor commands help us create some store variables, okay? So for that, we are going to take the scenario for change password and create some variables, which is basically username, password, and confirm password, and see how we can use them in our script. So the command which we are going to see is store, and the scenario is open application, click my account, type username, type password, click sign in button, click on change password link, provide old password, provide new password, confirm password, click click continue button, click log off, click continue to be back on the home page, okay? So these are the steps for the change password scenario. So let's start recording it. Provide the username to login. Then click on the change password, but you can and you should validate the action. So assert element present and assert log off to be present. Going on to the next step, which is change account password. Provide old password. Provide a new password. Click on the continue button. Verify that you have been able to change the password. So copy the text, provide it here. Now click on the log off link and the continue button, and you may or may not find out or validate logging off. That's fine. So now when I try to play it back, you have to understand that I will not be able to play it back until unless I change this password and the old password as well. So there is more than one place in the script, rather 4 places where I have to change data. So if I don't want to do it, a good idea is to create variables so that we reduce the changes to our script, and thus introducing the reasons to introduce error. So the more we are going to change the script, the chances are that there will be error introduced. For that, we use a store command. Now store command is peculiar. You pass on the data and then you provide the variable name. You pass on the data, so now you have to provide the new password because the old password will no longer work, and a new password. And instead of here the data, you basically pass the variable as dollar in curly braces username, dollar in curly braces password, and the new password. Save it and execute the program. So you run the program. Sorry, it is run the program. So at the time of execution, the password, new password and username pass the actual data which we have typed in our application. Okay. So the command was used is store, and you pass the variable as dollar curly brace username, where username is the name of the variable storing the value. Okay. So this is how we use the accessor command. Is this clear? Any questions? Why we use dollar username? Dollar username is how the variable has to be represented in the IDE script. So at runtime, this will be replaced by the actual value. So it is how you represent the variable in the IDE script. For store command, we created a variable with the name username. Again, pay attention. The store command created a variable called as username. To use this variable, we pass it by saying dollar curly brace username curly brace ends. At runtime, this will be replaced by this value. Just read the script again. Understand what is happening. Is this clear? Any questions? Okay. So we'll take a short break now, a break of 10 minutes, and after the break we will resume and understand something, a very important topic in Selenium called as locators. So let's take a short break of 10 minutes, after which we will resume the session and talk about something called as locators. So during the break, my voice will be on mute and screen on hold. Resuming the session, I hope you all are able to see the screen and hear me. Okay. So before we start our discussion on Selenium locators, the most important link about locators is this. It's in the Selenium documentation itself, which talks about the locator techniques which are used by Selenium. Now this concept is extremely important and it will be time and again revisited as in we move on to discussing WebDriver concepts whenever they arrive. So to understand locators or to understand the test automation through a tool, we have to understand that we are no longer going to look at an application as if we are a manual tester. Okay, we need to have some understanding of how the application was built using what technologies in the first place and understand some of them. So some of the important words which we will pick up and understand are HTML, XML, XPath, DOM, which is Document Object Model, CSS, and all these are basically used by Selenium to create these locators. Now, HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language, and it is the language which is used to create websites, especially the front ends. So how the application look like depends upon the HTML of it. Okay. So the form, the frames, the text boxes, the button, the images, the links are some of the web elements or the HTML elements using which the web application is created. Each of the HTML element has got some set of properties and values associated with them, and they are defined using something called as an HTML tag. So you have got an HTML tag followed by some property value pair, okay, and then you have got some text which is displayed on the web page, and then you have got HTML tag closing. Example, input, type, let's say text, name. So this displayed an input element of type text which has the name, property, email address. So using such information, the web application is created. This stands for HTML. Now let's have a look at our web application, and I'll take you to the my account web page and see some of the HTML available in there. So let's go and see the page source in here. So this is the HTML, backend HTML for the email address. This is the backend HTML for the password, and the last which we are going to read is the backend HTML for the sign in button. So this is for the email address, this is for the password, and this is for the sign in button which we see. So if you look at the locator information which is created by the script, opening the IDE script for the login logout. Do you see email address, password and something called as TDB5? Name equal to email address, name equal to password, ID equal to TDB5. See this, name equal to email address, name equal to password and ID equal to TDB5. This information is being fetched from the backend HTML properties for these three elements. So if the HTML element has a name or ID property in the HTML tag, we use it always to identify the element. Okay. So if the web element has an ID or name property, it is always used to identify the element. Is this clear? And with that, is it clear how these locators for these three objects were created by the Selenium IDE? And if you can have a look at the registration page script which you guys have created, you will find lot of name properties being used for first name, last name, um, a drop down country, um, password, confirm password. There are a lot of name properties available in there. And if you go back to the registration page, you will find out that all these objects which are available in here actually have these name properties available. So if you read the backend HTML, all these objects actually have these name properties available. Gender, name, first name, last name, DOB, email address, etc. Okay. Company, street address. So from here only the Selenium IDE has captured the properties. Is this clear? Okay. Now moving on to the next concept we have available is the XML. XML stands for Extended Markup Language. Okay. And it was basically created to help you transfer data from one place to another via web, because HTML was too restrictive as it has got its own well-defined tags to be used. But people wanted a little bit more flexibility, so XML got invented where you can have your own defined tags to be created. For example, let's say I have created an XML for movies where I can talk about a movie. Similarly, you can go ahead and create another node about movie. Okay, and so on and so forth. So if I want to get hold of a particular XML node, there is something called as a path which I will traverse called as X path. The path traversed to reach a node of interest. Okay, that's called an X path. Now the path could be relative or absolute. Absolute path is always from the root node. So it will start from movies and you will traverse to the node of interest. Whereas this is the absolute path, whereas relative path will be from a particular node or a reference point. Okay. So these are the two different ways to create the X path for a node of interest. Now, generally absolute paths are used if in case you do not have a good identifier available, and though we try and generally we try to avoid using absolute X path, because if in case there is a change in the page layout, then our absolute XPath is bound to fail more, whereas a relative is comparatively bound to fail less. So, how do you create XPaths for your HTML page? It is said that read the HTML page as if it is an XML document and then create the XPath. Okay? Now another analogy for an XPath is, let's say you want to have a party at your home and you want to give address to your colleagues in your office about your home address. Will you ever give an address as in street number 5, house number 44, um, city, New Hampshire, state, Massachusetts, country, USA? Will you give the address like this if you're having a party at your home for your office colleagues? No, right? You will generally probably think that they all live nearby. So you might, just want to say that once you have reached a famous outlet, let's say 24, let's say 7 by 11 of New Hampshire, which is on street 5, take a right and the fourth house is yours. Maybe that's how you would like to give an address. So you are giving your address relative to a famous joint 7-Eleven. Okay, that's a relative path. The absolute path is generally used when you are trying to order something via courier or to be delivered to your home. Then you give your absolute address. And if you are asking it an outside country, then you will also mention here your country. Okay, so generally that's one analogy which you can keep in your mind to help you understand about absolute and relative XPaths. Okay, now how do you create XPath for a HTML document? So again we will take this example for which we have been using. So let's say this is the document available to us, HTML document. So read the HTML document, like I said, as if it is an XML document. So these are all form elements. So let's create a form tag around them. And above it, there is obviously going to be an HTML and a body tag. And these tags then close. Now, if I want to create an XPath for these input elements, this is how the XPath will be created. Okay, so this is a relative XPath. To locate an element using the input tag where name property is email address. This is an absolute XPath. Another way to form the absolute XPath is like this, using the index property. Okay, so this is the property, this is the tag, and this is the value associated with that property, using which I can create the XPath for an object. So the same object can be used by or can be identified by using more than one identifier. Now let's try and record a scenario and have a look at it. So I'm going to pick the registration scenario to show you some of the locator values created during the recording time. So here, have a look at the locators created. So the first name object is identified by the name property. It could have also been identified by its XPath property. Okay. Or I could have created a DOM property, or I could have created a CSS property to recognize the same object. Okay. So there are different locators available for the same object to be identified, taking us to CSS, which stands for Cascading Style Sheet. Cascading Style Sheet basically describe how an object will appear on a page. What would be its look and feel? For example, if you look at this application, all the buttons appear in this nice blue color, okay, with the round corner. So that's because we are using a CSS at the back end. So if we are using the CSS or the look and feel of the application or the objects, we can also use them to identify the object. To know more about it, you can go ahead and read about the W3 schools and CSS. Similarly, you have got W3 schools for HTML, W3 schools for XML and XPath. So these are very well written links. I would urge you guys to go through it before you read about the locators in the document of Selenium. Go through these links first and understand what these technologies are all about. So CSS, as I mentioned, stands for Cascading Style Sheet, and it tells you how the object is going to look and feel, appear on the web page. For example, the same analogy, come to 7-Eleven and take a right, and 4 houses down, the house which appears yellow in color is mine. So I'm talking about the look and feel of the house, the appearance of the house to recognize the house. So there is an appropriate syntax associated with the cascading style sheets, which is HTML tag followed by property equal to value. And if the object has got an ID property, then hash ID. That's how we create the CSS. For example, in here, the CSS for this is CSS is equal to HTML tag followed by property equal to value. This is for the sign in button of the login page. Because it has got a TDB5 as ID, this is how you represent the CSS. Okay. The last is the document object model approach to identify the object. The document object model as well as has got a W3 schools article, and it is very well created. The document object model basically says that read a HTML document as if it is a tree-like structure. So it has got a parent and it has got a child node. So you have got parent node and a child node available. So all the objects in the HTML document are children of the HTML DOM. Form and frame are the child nodes. From can contain further child nodes, which are your input elements. Example, text box, button, drop down, etc. Okay. So read a HTML document as if it is a hierarchical document and a document which has got parent and children, and then try to create locators from it. So you basically say document dot, generally use ID properties if available for an object. For example, create underscore account dot first name. So you use an identifier. Create underscore account is the name of the form for the registration page, and first name is the name of the first text box where you provide the first name of an element. Or you can also use index properties to identify the element. Okay, so if the element has got same name properties or same attributes, values, then you can use index property. For example, if you look at the gender radio button in here, the gender radio button has got an index value of 1. This means you want to select the female radio button. And for the male radio button, the same attribute value would be 0. That means you want to select the male radio button. So in here, since the name property is same, that is gender, I use index property as well along with it to tell me about the locator formed for the object. Okay, so this is how Selenium creates locators for the different objects available to us on the web page, and it is generally created using the HTML information available. So either if the object has got ID and name property, it will always be ID or name property to identify the object, or else we can create XPath, CSS, or the DOM approach to locate the object. Generally speaking, if ID and name are not available, we always use XPath, and most of the times we use XPath to locate an object. Is this clear? And relative XPaths, because if in case a new object gets inserted, absolute XPath is bound to change more than the relative XPath. Okay? Does XPath saves time while locating? Ideally not. The most time saving attribute is ID or name property, because it's kind of creates indexing. Okay, so if you are familiar with databases, you understand indexing, it will help in searching. XPath relative saves time, absolute will take more time, and the best time saved is ID and name property. So that's why Selenium locates object, it ensures it chooses the locator which has got the fastest method to identify the object. So ID and name are the fastest. So as an practice problem for your assignment, you guys can try out to create a locator sheet for the objects of the registration scenario. So to create this sheet, you create some columns in your Excel sheet and find out during the time of recording what is the name of the object, what is the type of the object, what is its ID, name property, what is its XPath property, CSS property, the DOM property available to us. For example, the first object is the male radio button. Object type is radio button. What is its ID? Not available. Name is gender. XPath. So find out what is the XPath available to us for the male radio button. Similarly, for the female radio button, what is the DOM available for the male radio button and for the female radio button. So find out this information and type it out in the Excel sheet. What is the CSS available? If not available, then you do not provide any information. So you only fetch information which is available to you on the Selenium IDE and paste it here. That's how you will be able to create this locator sheet for the registration scenario. Okay, and it will help you and give you a good practice to learn how IDE is recognizing all these locator informations or creating these locator information for the objects on the web page. Okay, now the last concept in Selenium which we would be learning is how do we create a test suite in Selenium. So what is a test suite? A test suite is a collection of independent test cases. A test suite is a collection of independent test cases. Okay. In Selenium IDE, you can go ahead and create the test suite. For that, what is that you will be doing is go back to the home page, launch IDE and stop the recording mode. Go to file, say add test case. You can go ahead and add as many test cases as you want to your program. Right click on the untitled and say remove, delete. Go to the file, say save test suite and provide it a name. Click on this play icon which will play the entire test suite. So all the test cases within that suite will get executed, and once the execution is completed, you will find out that some of the test cases passed, some failed. So for that you could see runs 3, failure 2. Now you have to ensure you are back to the main page before you start the execution again. You again go back and click on the play all test case, and this time you also click on this pause button which will help you with the debugging process. So during the execution, let's say I want to fix the issue which came up in my last script. The reason being here, the text to be fine. So I fixed that information, save the test case, and I can go ahead and click on this play resume button to play the entire test suite again. I can go ahead and pause, click on this button for step-by-step execution and maybe correct this one as well, and click on this pause resume button to resume the execution and ensure all the test cases in my test suite have passed. Okay. So this is the process of debugging. So click on this pause button to pause the execution. Then click on this blue arrow to step by step execute the test case, and meanwhile you can go on and amend the test cases. So a collection of test cases, independent test cases, forms a test suite in Selenium. At the back end it is as well as an HTML file if you have a look at it. Which contains these test cases hyperlinked. Okay. Any questions in here about locators or test suite? Now, what are the limitations of Selenium IDE? The limitations of Selenium IDE are you cannot use Selenium IDE on any other browser than the Firefox browser. Okay. It only works with the Firefox browser. It is a tool for record and playback only, and that was the only reason it was created. It was never created for a complete end-to-end test automation, so don't think about it and don't even try. It doesn't have support to talk to your databases, or the support to generate logs, or the support for report generation, or the support to introduce logic loops in your program. And it doesn't support mobile testing. Okay, it doesn't support object oriented concepts for testing. So these are some of the important limitations with Selenium IDE. But Selenium IDE is a very good tool for a very quick proof of concept to understand whether your application will support Selenium or not. It is a very good tool to help you aid in locator creation when you get stuck with Selenium, and sometimes you come across some tricky locators. So for all this and more, ID is definitely beneficial to understand Selenium and automation for the first time users. It's a very good introductory tool. Okay. Now from next week onwards, next week I mean by the next class, we will be starting learning Java as a programming language. So for that, I would want you guys to install Java on your systems, the latest version of Java and Eclipse Kepler version. So the latest version of Java is Java JDK 8. You can go to this link, and depending upon the operating system you have, download and install that particular Java version on your system. Ensure that you have accept the license agreement. Once you have installed Java on your system, go ahead and download the Eclipse version as well. The version of Eclipse which you will require is Eclipse Kepler version. Okay? Is this clear? So download and install the Eclipse and the Java. But before you install Eclipse, ensure you have Java available on your system, and then download Eclipse on your system. So how was today's class for you? Was it informative? Did you learn something new? Okay. So if there is any feedback, please feel free to drop me an email about it. And with that, we have come to the end of this class. And with that, we have also finished Selenium IDE. So from next class, we will start learning Java as a programming language. So thank you so much for your time. I will see you guys in the next class. Take care. Bye everyone. Have a good weekend. Thank you so much. Bye.